Before we jump in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more movie recaps every week. Now imagine falling in love with someone online while secretly hating them in real life. That's basically the emotional disaster at the center of You've Got Mail, the movie that somehow turned dial-up internet, bookstores, and email notifications into one of the most charming romantic comedies ever made. And honestly, this movie feels like a time capsule from the late 90s, back when the internet made people hopeful instead of exhausted. But beneath all the cozy New York vibes and cute emails, this story gets surprisingly messy, because Kathleen Kelly has no idea that the sweet guy she's pouring her heart out to online is also the man destroying her business. So, grab a coffee, pretend your modem is screaming in the background, and let's recap You've Got Mail. The movie opens in New York City during the late 90s, when getting online required patience, determination, and a computer that sounded like it was fighting for its life. Both Kathleen Kelly and Joe Fox log on to America Online every night to message each other anonymously. They've never met in person. They don't know each other's real names. But somehow, they've become each other's favorite person. Their usernames are adorable little 90s relics. Joe is NY152. Kathleen is Shopgirl. And the funniest part is that while they're falling for each other online, in real life, they absolutely cannot stand each other. Kathleen owns a tiny, independent children's bookstore called The Shop Around the Corner. It's warm, cozy, personal, and filled with storybooks. The store originally belonged to her mother, so it means everything to her. Kathleen knows all her customers by name. She recommends books to kids personally. The place feels less like a business and more like a second home. Meanwhile, Joe Fox belongs to the Fox family, owners of Fox Books, a giant corporate bookstore chain. Think massive discounts, endless inventory, coffee shops, and enough marketing power to crush smaller stores without even trying. Joe's family opens a huge Fox Books location right near Kathleen's store, and from the moment Kathleen sees it, she knows exactly what's going to happen. Her little bookstore is in trouble. Kathleen and Joe first properly meet at a publishing party, and the interaction immediately goes wrong. Kathleen already knows who Joe Fox is. To her, he represents everything she hates about giant corporations swallowing small businesses. Joe, meanwhile, thinks the situation is kind of amusing, which only makes Kathleen more annoyed. Their chemistry is obvious instantly, but it's not romantic chemistry. It's verbal combat chemistry, the kind where two people clearly fascinate each other, but would rather die than admit it. And what makes the whole thing hilarious is that after these tense real-life encounters, they both go home and continue emotionally bonding online. Neither realizes they're talking to the same person. So, Kathleen spends her nights telling Joe how stressed she is about the Fox bookstore, while Joe unknowingly comforts the woman whose business his company is destroying. Yeah, this relationship is already a disaster. The email scenes are honestly the heart of the movie. Today, sending an email feels boring. But in 1998, getting a message from someone you liked actually felt exciting. The movie captures that perfectly. Every time Kathleen hears, "You've got mail," her entire mood changes. Joe feels the same way. They talk about books, relationships, fears, loneliness, and random everyday thoughts. And because they're anonymous, they're more honest with each other than they are with anyone else in their real lives. Meanwhile, both of them are stuck in relationships that clearly aren't working. Kathleen is dating Frank Navasky, a writer and political commentator who somehow manages to turn literally every conversation into a debate about society. Frank isn't a terrible guy. He's just exhausting. Joe is dating Patricia Eden, who is equally polished, equally busy, and equally emotionally disconnected. Neither relationship feels natural, but when Joe and Kathleen talk online, everything suddenly feels easy. And that's what slowly pulls them closer together. Not looks, not status, not money, just conversation, which is probably why this movie still works decades later. As time passes, Kathleen's worst fears become reality. Fox Books starts pulling customers away from her tiny store. People love the discounts. They love the convenience. And slowly, the shop around the corner starts falling apart financially. This part of the movie hits harder now because it feels weirdly modern. It's basically about small businesses getting crushed by giant corporations. Except instead of online shopping giants, it's bookstores. Kathleen tries to stay optimistic, but you can tell she's heartbroken. The store is tied to memories of her mother. Closing it would feel like losing a piece of her life, and Joe starts realizing the situation isn't just business. But the more he gets to know Kathleen in real life, and the more he falls for Shopgirl online, the guilt starts eating at him. Well, until one day he finally figures it out. Joe accidentally realizes Kathleen is Shopgirl, the woman he's been arguing with in real life, is also the woman he's fallen in love with online. Instead of revealing the truth, Joe decides to slowly win Kathleen over in real life. He starts spending more time with her, helping her and talking with her more kindly. And for the first time, Kathleen starts seeing Joe as an actual person instead of just the corporate bookstore guy. They begin forming a genuine friendship, creating a weird emotional triangle where Kathleen is unknowingly falling for the same man twice. Tom Hanks somehow makes Joe likable, even though this plan is extremely questionable. Imagine discovering your anonymous online soulmate secretly knew your identity for weeks, but somehow the movie still makes it charming. She can't compete with Fox Books anymore, so she makes the painful decision to close the shop around the corner. This is probably the saddest part of the movie. The final days in the bookstore feel incredibly personal. The employees aren't just co-workers, they're family, and the customers genuinely care. And Kathleen tries to stay graceful through all of it, even though she's devastated. This isn't about market competition anymore. A piece of someone's life is disappearing. But strangely, losing the store also changes Kathleen. Without the bookstore defining her entire identity, she slowly opens herself to new possibilities. She begins writing. She starts rediscovering herself outside of her mother's legacy. Emotionally, she becomes lighter. Meanwhile, Joe realizes he doesn't just enjoy talking to Kathleen, and now he has one massive problem. How exactly do you tell someone, hey, I'm the guy who helped destroy your bookstore, but also the man you've been emotionally attached to online for months? Joe and Kathleen finally agree to meet in person as their online identities. She's nervous but excited. Even after everything happening in her life, this anonymous relationship means a lot to her. And as she waits, Joe appears. At first, Kathleen is shocked, because suddenly she realizes the truth. Joe was NY152 the entire time. For a second, it feels like the whole relationship might collapse right there. But Joe finally drops all the jokes and games. He admits that he wanted it to be him, that he fell in love with her. Somewhere along the way, she changed him. And then comes the final line. I wanted it to be you. I wanted it to be you so badly. And somehow, it works. Kathleen forgives him, and the movie ends exactly the way a late 90s romantic comedy should. And emotional enough to make you smile without admitting you got emotional. What makes You've Got Mail interesting is that the story really shouldn't work as well as it does. Describing the plot out loud makes it sound insane. A billionaire bookstore heir secretly romances the woman whose shop he indirectly destroys. It sounds less like a romantic comedy and more like the beginning of a lawsuit. But the movie survives because of the chemistry between Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. They make every conversation feel natural, comfortable, and real. The movie also understands something important about romance. People fall in love when they feel understood. Before they know each other's status, appearance, or baggage, they connect emotionally first. The movie also captures a very specific moment in internet history. Back then, the internet still felt personal, hopeful, and even magical. That nostalgic atmosphere gives the movie a charm that's hard to recreate today. Plus, New York itself feels like a character. The bookstores, coffee shops, and autumn streets. Everything feels cozy enough to make you want to move into the movie permanently. So that was You've Got Mail, a movie about love, bookstores, anonymous emails, and one man committing emotional espionage with unbelievable confidence. It's funny, comforting, emotional, and still one of the most rewatchable romantic comedies ever made. Even after all these years, hearing You've Got Mail still hits with a weird amount of nostalgia. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another movie recap. And until next time, check your inbox. What still makes the ending memorable is that neither Joe nor Kathleen is perfect. They hurt each other, misunderstand each other, and spend most of the movie clashing instead of flirting. But once the walls come down, they realize the connection they built online was real from the start. And beneath all the conflict, they were always two lonely people looking for someone who truly understood them. Somehow it works,